What's up, guys? JL over at Bridge the Divide decided to do an analysis of one of my videos. And I have this to say. JL, you might have more subscribers than me, and that probably means you have more money than I do, and your video editing is better than mine, and your beard is superior to mine, but you don't forget that your hair will never be as good as mine. Now, let me be serious here for a second. I want to know that, I want you to know that I really appreciate some of what JL said and what he put together. For one thing, like when he took my picture and superimposed it on his video, he didn't do what I've seen done in the past of people, just taking the worst photos, the worst snapshots and putting them up there. He was very respectful about that. And of course, that lends him credibility. And then on top of that, He did some pretty good research and analysis, kind of dug into things about my channel too, and he knows my position better than most would. And then on top of that, he gave me a call out in it. I appreciate those things. But now I want to just dive into, first of all, an irrational attack against JL. This is an irrational, unprovable attack, but maybe it'll make some sense. So a couple of videos back, I mentioned that every person has a need to worship. And as soon as I clicked on JL's video, I was like, oh, there it is. Is it possible that you have replaced God with horror films in your life? Like, when I look at that, it's really interesting that Christians get mocked for trying to improve their life, for believing in quote-unquote fairy tales. But there are some people out there that are cultic and cultically enthusiastic and all out emotional and wrapped up in following totally fake things that don't even improve life in the slightest. And so I really wonder about that. And is that, I don't think that is provable that this is a bad motif, etc. But what's really interesting is that I think it's insightful. And I'll get to that in a second of why that's so insightful. So JL, after he gives this background from his dark, foreboding, master bedroom or whatever, wherever he's doing that from, he's probably got a set aside bedroom somewhere, not a room, etc. And so then he gives this theological background and he tells the difference between Calvinist and non-Calvinist or Armenians or whatnot. And then he jumps into my position, and I'll give him props that is way more than most atheists understand or comprehend. But all of a sudden you jump into explaining my position as if when one comes into a clash with God or the standards of God or has sin or in their life or it's something, that immediately they are condemned to eternal hellfire. And you said something along those lines, immediate condemnation, I think is the way you phrased it. And I don't believe that nor ascribe to that. I think it could take someone 10, 20, 30 years to destroy their relationship with Christ. And so what is this pit of hell kind of fear-mongering idea that you were working up? If anything, I think it's a misunderstanding, but I think it's actually worse than that. And then you jump into this, you explain that we are fear-mongers. We are the ones that are fear-focused. And when you mentioned that and you popped that little thing up on the screen that said something about behavior control, information control, thought control, emotion control, and then like we're out to control everybody, these Christians, that was one of those hyper-real moments. I was just sitting there aghast and I was like, are you kidding? Like, here is a guy that has fear in the background, who spends a large portion of his time focusing on movies that are focused on fear. And if that's not the motive, then here's the other motive, which is, do you like to see helpless people brutally killed? I think you probably want to stay with the first motive. So the focus then is fear, and then you're trying to get people to fear Christianity by a set of standards that you pop up on the screen. Who then is really focusing on fear? I know personally myself, when I'm teaching people, fear is not a great motivator, especially not here in the U.S. And so maybe 5 to 10% of the time I would tell people about things that would destroy their life and that they should be concerned about, but I spend the majority of my time trying to get people to focus on things that will improve their life and obviously their relationship with Christ. But you built an incredible straw man there that is unattainable to even hold up. So let's just kind of dive into that for a second. You said that, we're out to control people's behavior. Are you saying that atheists aren't? Are you saying that we shouldn't control people's behavior? Are you one of those Chaz people? And I said, are you? I'm not saying you are, but are you one of those Chaz people like, we can just let people go, we can disband the police and we can have little counselors come around and you can just let people do anything they want? How is that functioning right now? How is that going? And out in California, it's like, oh, let's just let people do whatever they want. If they feel the urge and they need to poop on the street, just let them poop on the street. And businesses are closing, and people that feel like shoplifting are shoplifting all the time, and so people don't feel safe, and then businesses are closing down, and then people are moving out in record numbers out of California, and then California is trying to exert control by now taxing the people as they leave for, leaving California tax, which, talk about insanity. And so you say that we are behavior control people as if you don't. Like, I thought your channel was about reasoning and rationality. And if it is, do people not have to control their behaviors? How would you, what's your rebuttal to that? Next, you say something about information control. And personally, if somebody says they want to read Karl Marx or the, Hitler's speeches, or they want to read, some kind of morbid material, I think there's probably, some hints that they could do better, but I don't stop them from reading that. And maybe a small child, but what are atheists then coming along that they take 17 Bible verses or something and they try to lambast the entire Bible because they don't want anybody to read that who's then more focused on information control. And if I remember right, in our current present day and age, so much censorship has popped up and that it is unbelievable. It is creating new social media empires by how much censorship is out there. I've been censored myself for using the term imagine, which still makes no sense to me. But with that, is it the Christian organizations that are censoring people, or is it the non-religious people that think that there should be censoring going on? And then whose idea was it to have freedom of the press to begin with? So anyhow, what about thought control? You say, you're like, those Christians, they want to control your thoughts. Like, they're all about controlling you and you should control your thoughts. Well, I saw on your video underneath, I was just kind of scrolling through and I looked and there was something about mental health awareness, and it seems like you're pro mental health awareness and you're for psychology and psychiatry. And do you know what they really focus on in these therapy sessions? How to control your thinking. So are Christians, are they to be feared because they want people to control their thoughts? So would you say you don't want people to control their thoughts? You can't really go there. Further, what about that? They want to emotionally control you. Oh, so should we just back off and let people express their emotions? Like, just do whatever they want. I'm sure we should let political enemies and spouses and etc. just totally express their emotions to one another and never get, any kind of restraint in these matters. Let's just everybody duke out their emotions that. And this is prominent. This ideology is really catching on, like across the street from me. I think it was 2 days ago. 5 teenagers walked by a guy, beat the crap out of him. And what for? It wasn't racism. There was nothing stated about racism. They didn't rob the guy. They just wanted to beat him up. So should there be any kind of emotional control of society? So you build this straw man that Christians are trying to control people. They're trying to control people, but yet you believe in every single one of those categories, and you would have to rationally believe this, that there needs to be control. Quit trying to shift the blame there. Wow. So then there was this next straw man, which is hilarious, is this money focus of Christians. You got that, you put up that little thing there with Jesus, give me $5, where Jesus is asking for $5. And then you make another point like these Christians are out to control the wealth. And let's tackle this head on. Let's just be logical and rational. Are there fraudulent Christians out there who are trying to take advantage of people that are in, lead positions? Yeah, I'd say about 1 out of 500 pastors. I highly doubt it would be more than that, but it's less than 1%. It's minuscule. It is not representative of the whole. Are they out there? Sure. But the Bible has been warning about them for 2,000 years. It actually says, don't follow these kind of men. If that man is greedy or wants gain or wants to live a luxurious life, or if he loves money, then don't follow him. So, and then the other thing is, like, Christians, let's just get this on the table. Do churches ask for what? Tithes? 10%? Yeah. And the churches get what? National average. What do churches get? 2%. Now, do you hear churches whining and begging and all this kind of stuff about not having the full 10%? Or do they accept the 2% and move on? Like, how do you know that Jesus claims to be God? How do you know about the story of Noah and the ark? How do you know all of these other things? It's because the church is not teaching that all the time. The church is teaching all sorts of things. We're not money hungry at, whoever. And when you go further into this, Christians actually teach like some restraint. They're like, we're not game with corporate America. Corporate America right now is like 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Go, 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 go. And it's burning people out. Christianity would say work less than that. And actually very conservative and brave Christianity would say, why don't you take your life down a notch and go to a one family income or a one stream income instead of having 2 streams of income in your house? Why don't you bear that down a little bit? Now, why would Christians do that if they're money hungry? Like, that doesn't make right percentage-wise. The more people make, the more they can give. But yeah, we teach these other things. Now, so I guess if we're going, Christians versus atheists on these ideas, you guys, the atheists are the socialist. Y'all are the communist. You have the highest tax bracket ideas in the universe. Yeah. You want to take everything away. Like, you will own nothing. We let the state control it. Let the rich and the smart control everything. We know how to distribute things a whole lot better than you little peons do. Check out Sam Altman's, what is it? Altruistic, I forget the term, but it's you take the money from the people and then you push it out there. I'll get that thought here in a second. I'm sure it'll come back. So, and then you guys, it is known that one of the places that atheists reign supreme is in the universities as professors. And they want to uneducate and break down all these Christians. And this is one of the reasons that, Christians go to college and everything, and they all get uneducated about church, and they get re-educated, and, they see that Christianity isn't really real, etc., under these atheists. And they want to destroy everything. But those college professors want an income, don't they? And a pretty good tenure, and a pretty good retirement. And those college professors, through the colleges, take more from a human being than a church will in its entire life. It's something to think about if you want to compare, apples to apples. At one point, you say something like, hey, eternal insecurity, why don't you bring the goods? Let 10,000 years of methodology reign. Okay, sounds like a good challenge. So bring the goods. That's epistemology. No, that's not epistemology. It's empiricism. Sorry, I'm a human, and I'm not pre-recording or editing this. So that's empiricism, all right? But then you say, let 10,000 years of methodology work. That's epistemology. So are you an empiricist or an epistemologist? Like, which are you? And while you're trying to settle if you're one or the other or both or whatnot, why don't you consider that 10,000 years of human refining of thought and logic and reason hasn't created one perfect system of thought, not even close. It's actually caused branches of philosophy, multiple streams, multiple downlines, fractured thinking. Oh, you think this? Well, we're going to think this way. And it cascades down. And that's so much different than the revealed Word of God, where he says, this is truth, and you just bank on it. So, what do you want us to follow? And then prove that that is superior to all these other branches. And you just can't do that. You also, I appreciate what you're doing. You did some pretty good research, to find out a little bit more about me, and to let's introduce it well, and try to get his theology right before we attack him. But and I'll say this: JL, you're one of the best. You're one of the best atheists out there. And the reason this is shown is because you got a channel that's growing, and these underlings are relying on you to tear apart videos like mine, because some of them read it and or listen to them and they're like, well, that makes a little bit of sense, but I need somebody to just tear that apart for what I'm not getting. And so we turn to somebody like JL to tear us apart. But if you are one of the best and you're one of the leaders in this thing, then you should be able to tear apart my arguments without bias. Now, and I know what you're going to think, oh, I'm not biased. Let's just hold on a second. Let's approach this from a scientific standpoint. I will admit that some Christians are biased. They're just absolutely biased. I see them, and they'd probably watch one of your videos, and after about 30 seconds of one of your videos, they'll just turn it off because they have Christian biases. They don't even want to hear your argument. They don't want to know anything about it. They don't like you, and they push it off. But surely you're not saying that all atheists are unbiased. That would not be a tenable position to begin with. And so with that, did you really pay attention to what I said in the video? And this is where atheists get in trouble so often. Instead of listening to motives and intentions and intuitions and the spirit of things, what I said was, some of you will turn this off. Some of you are biased. Some is not all. It's not a poisoning the well fallacy, all this kind of garbage, unless you want it to be that, unless you're trying to make it that. If you want to tear my arguments apart, do it, but you don't have to. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. I'm gonna list two other things, and then I'm just gonna drop it from there. There's other irrationalities I see in something you stated. I brought to the table a test for whether God exists or not. And you said, we're going to reject the test because that is the greatest discovery of all time. Let's think about the logic of that. That doesn't even make sense. If somebody walked in and says, hey, I've got a go green job here. That's an executive job where you get to travel around the world. You make $250,000 a year for 1 day a week work. And then, while you're flying around the world, you can visit and go on vacation and whatnot. And it's the best offer you've ever had. And you're like, I reject that because it's the best offer I've ever had. That's not good logic to just erase the argument. And then the other thing that you stated was that because I put my video on a really small channel that's got less than 300 subscribers, you little penny anything, and because of that, why don't you put it out there to be peer-reviewed in all the scientific journals? So what you stated was that because of size, something was incorrect. That is not logical. Just because a presentation is made to 250 people versus 2,500 people or 25,000 people, I don't know, 250,000 people, doesn't make something wrong. Things are not wrong simply because of size. That's a false comparison. And again, I thought the channel was about reason and logic. So, all in all, I will say that I have let 10,000 years of methodology work for me. I have looked around very rationally and screened the horizon, and Christianity is the most comprehensive and best description of the human condition that anyone could ever imagine. And it would behoove you to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.